Hey friends, it's Troy, your hourly flipper. I've got my grandfather cardigan on because it's turning cold in the mornings and the evenings. And with yard sale seasons coming to a close, I wonder if you're thinking like I am about where in the world am I going to get inventory for my future sales. And you may be thinking like I am that storage unit auctions may be the way to go. I have years of experience winning storage unit auctions, and I want to share with you my thoughts on it because, again, I told you that I had lots of experience and I've really never lost money on a storage unit auction that I've won. I'm going to show you how I do that in just a little bit. I found a storage unit that I wanted on storagetreasures.com, and I have recorded my thought process on how I went through actually what I was going to bid on. So I'm going to insert this clip here right now. Roll the clip, future Troy. All right. Here is Storage Treasures. I love that website. They've never been swindled, I guess, by them. The prices are up front as far as what they paid for. So you're looking for a storage unit that's in your area or relatively close. This one is in Cincinnati, Ohio, not that far away. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, but look at the picture that they are showing. It is the Millennium Falcon, and it's one of the 3-foot versions. They think that that is going to sell this unit. What they don't know is you can easily research this. Let's move over to my other screen. Whoop! There is the beauty that is the 1979 Millennium Falcon that right now is listed for $310. Notice in the back, there's no decorations at all. That's what we had back in the 70s. No decorations, and we liked it fine. All right. This one has, battle paint, etc., etc. It's from the 90s, and so it's not even going to be it's not going to be that valuable. It's not something to sell a storage unit for. Look over here. I have covered the price. I'm going to tell you how much that I paid for it or I bid for it. Then I'll talk about how I got to that number. All right, here we go. I'm going to double click on the screen. There's the big picture. Got a Star Wars game up there. Has below that Millennium Falcon something that's called Star Wars X-Wings Miniature Game. And I looked that up. And that's probably about $25 worth of profit. It sells for about $45. And that is definitely worth considering. What I'm doing is going to look through all the pictures, looking for what I can see that I can make money from. And that's going to get the baseline. All right. That is the amount of money that, again, at a worst case scenario, I think I can make from the unit. I'm just going to talk you through that. There's one other interesting thing in this picture. That box right there is from the 90s as well. It has to do with laser tag. And if all the pieces are in there, that is a pretty valuable thing, about $60. So in this picture, there's this, which is maybe 20, that, and that of value. So if I look at that, there's maybe $75. Let's keep going. Here's the next picture. This shows you the totality of the unit. See how far back it goes? That's 15 feet. It's 10 feet across. In addition to the Millennium Falcon that's right there, there are all of these totes and comic book boxes, shelves. So I'm going to build the assumption that everything you see is as full down to the bottom as they are to the top, that everything you see is all the way down to the floor. In other units, you could maybe assume that there's a table back there taking up space, but where you can see that totes fill up this area, I'm assuming that totes and boxes fill up that area back there, right? So I did some math, all right? Here are the boxes right here visible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to assume that everything else in here is about the same price as what these 5 comic boxes would be in about this area. You can walk into a comic shop any day of the week with a short box of comics and get $25. So right there is $125. Now I did my maths and I estimated, knowing 15 feet front to back and 10 across, and how much those smalls are right there. There are about 80 of these, the equivalent of these boxes here. Now, is there a little bit more because it's way tall here? Yes. Could there be some empty spaces in there or some boxes that aren't the equivalent of these short boxes? Maybe so. But I'm going to do the average. All right. So 25 times 80, all of you intrepid mathematicians, you're going to get that is $2,000. So in a worst case scenario where I'm taking bottom dollar, that unit is $2,000. Great. You bid on, for business purposes, what you see. So I can see about $2,000. There's another way to look at this though, too. What's the quality of this stuff? And I were to break up these boxes into a little bit more. What's the likelihood that these items are more valuable than the bottom dollar? Let's spend some time looking in and going forward. This is the picture. Those were our reference boxes, remember, over to the right. And here's just some CDs. Can you zoom in? Yes. I want to show you that. See that CD right there? It's Daybreak Origin. At the end of this video, Google Daybreak Origin, because that is a Bolo CD. I wouldn't have known anything about it, but I just picked it randomly. If that CD were in there, that's a $40 CD just by itself. It is uber rare and in demand right now. I doubt all of those are the $40 CDs. I haven't had it. You can clearly see it to do that kind of guesstimates, but that's maybe, again, something to consider. I see that there are comic books there. There is an Xbox driving wheel right there. And then there's an Xbox, an original one, to go with it. Don't know what's in there, but again, maybe there's nothing. And the boxes go back. Well, let's go to the next one. Here's the left side. These are totes, needless to say, but look what's happening right here. That tote is starting to buckle down. That means that these are not most likely empty. They've got some weight on them. So if there's weights and we've got these other things, we can assume that there are either comics in there or other, pop culture items. So those, again, are pretty full. And that is something as we consider. Again, those are our reference boxes. To the left of there is a G.I. Joe Resolute and some Blu-rays below that. So those are things we could see that we couldn't see before. This isn't exciting, but it's something to know. See, this is below to the left, more of that buckling that I talked about here. And also, if you zoom in, you can see some of the things that are over here. And those are DVDs. Nothing particularly special in the DVDs. That one, I believe, is a Julia Roberts movie. Can we confirm that? What is? No, it can't go any closer. Let's assume Julia Roberts. Let's say that's Runaway Bride. All right. But there you go. Nothing of real value there. So that's a ding against it, but there are potential pluses. Here's things really to look at. Those are posters, and they're, looks like comic inspired posters, but we can see what's inside the boxes. Sci-fi magazines. There are cords and that, so it's more of the electronic stuff. Action figures. Those are not dolls. Those are action figures. And miscellaneous. All right. We can't see the details, but we know that there are things there. More of those pictures. This is in the further back. See, there's some records there, some more action figures, bric-a-brac. The big thing to see is that they're not empty. All right. More comic books. And then you can see this pile and zoom in. I'm going to tell you good news and then bad news. Okay. This, it looks like a 1980s Green Lantern comic book. The bad news is you can tell that that's yellowed and that's not in a bag or boarded. So that condition is probably poor. And with that cover, what I can see of the cover, I can't identify it individually. So it is not worth much. We can't even consider that. But good to know. Let's keep on going. There's some more. What you can see is the comics and that they're not empty. So that I'm trying to get it where you can get me. I may have been covering up, putting my hand in front, but you get to see interesting parts of my hand. Boxes that have fallen over. There are 2 guitars for Guitar Hero. That's awesome. Electronics. And this is in the farther back. They're, again, not empty. So we can validate that video game stuff and comics and action figures are things that we see. Are those higher priced albums or higher priced items? Yes. But there's Thanos in an Avengers thing. Maybe that's worth something. There's the bottom. Non-empty boxes. Again, let's reiterate. So we have a $2,000. Oh, there is a comic book that we can see. They're called let's zoom in to get that. Eradicators. Okay. If you look up Eradicators, you'll see that #1 comic is not worth anything. But these comics that are with the red bottom, I know that those are Marvel comics from the early 2000s. So that tells you the time frame that we saw an 80s comic and then we saw a 2000s comic. So there's going to be a wide range. Comics of great value that are in that time frame are the first appearance of Deadpool. That was particularly valuable. And, there are some other lesser ones. That's probably the biggest thing of, not of all time, but of real value from that era. So let's go back and look at this. $2,000 was what I could think at a bare minimum. But of course, there's more value in there. I'm going to say that, again, a conservative estimate from what I can see, that it is electronics, that it is action figures, and that it is comics, and those are not empty. We're basing that those bins are buckled, and when we looked in, that we could see things in that genre, and it's a 10 by 15 unit. So I'm going to triple that $2,000 estimate and say that probably I can make about $6,000 from that unit. Now, could I make more? Yes, absolutely. But I could make just the $2,000. So there's the risk involved. Let's go in and see right now how much that unit is going for. X out of that. Here's the unit. Right now, it's at $3,390. If I were to bid, and I do have 3 hours left, here's the thought process. It is possible that I could lose $1,300, almost $1,400 on that unit. Compare that to how much I could make, and I could reasonably almost double my money. Would it be awesome to go through those boxes and see what's there? This suggests that it's either an incredible collector or this is the inventory of a comic book shop that's gone by the wayside and now they can't pay the storage unit fees for it anymore. It is at, I'll let you know, it is at $3,390 because I bid $3,380. I was willing to take that risk to get the opportunity to go through those boxes. Am I going to go much more on this unit? No, I won't go up. I won't go beyond 4,000. I'll let you know whether I get it or not. But this is not the only expense. Let's add on. Okay, so let's say I get it for $4,000. We're going to make this easy. There's a 10% buyer's premium. So that makes it $4,400. But on top of that, this is setting in Cincinnati, Ohio. Remember me saying that? That's about 90 miles away. To buy or to rent a U-Haul from here to go up there that will hold all of that and then come back down, that cost is about $400. So I am $5,000 in. So at a reasonable scenario, I could make $1,000 from spending $5,000. That's not a good ROI. That's a 25% ROI. I'm not even doubling my money. Is it worth it, though, to have the opportunity to go through those boxes? We'll see. I'll let you know because we have 3 hours and 56 minutes to figure out whether this is something I'm going to get or not. So tune in next week. I'll let you know in my next video. Almost ready to finish. Let's go back to my camera. All right. What do you think? Did you learn anything? I hope you did. And if you have any questions or anything that's come up that you want to talk a little more about, put it down in the comments and I'll answer all the questions that are down there. Whether it's in 2025 when I'm releasing this video or 2035 when way future Troy answers you with that experience as well. So if you would like, subscribe, do all the things to help the channel out so it can grow, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.